Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and Apple released iOS 27 public beta finally, and you can now try it out on your device as a public beta tester for free. Once you install it, you'll notice quite a few improvements to performance, stability, and many more refinements, but I wanted to share some of the first things you should try with iOS 27. And the first thing is the interface and liquid glass. You'll see refinement throughout, where there's refinement to folders, different icons, and more, but if you don't like the liquid glass look, you can now change it. If we go into our settings, go down here, go down to Appearance. Under Appearance, we have Liquid Glass. We now have a slider to adjust this to look more glass-like or get rid of it entirely, where it's basically just sort of opaque and has sort of a tinted glass look instead of a liquid glass look. So you can see that here by default, it's set right in the middle, and this gives you an idea of what it looks like. If you want more glass, just turn it on to more glass or turn it off entirely. The next setting you may want to try out has to do with your volume adjustment. Some people really don't like the way iPhone volumes work, and now you can adjust the volume individually. You can find that by going into your settings, going to Sound and Haptics, scroll down, and you'll see by default you have alarms and timers turned on, as well as alerts and system sounds. If you want to adjust these individually, just turn these settings off, and now you can change it for alarms and timers to match ringtone volume or make one louder than the other. So try this out and see what works best for you. Now, to go along with your volumes, if you're someone that likes to adjust sound individually, there's some new features specifically for AirPods. Now, you will need to be on the AirPods beta, and this is supported on the AirPods Pro 2, AirPods Pro 3, AirPods 4, both regular and active noise cancellation, along with AirPods Max 2. If you're utilizing those betas, you can go into your settings here, and you can turn on the beta by going down to the bottom of your settings, going to AirPods Beta Updates, enabling this, and then basically just waiting for them to update. There are a few ways I've talked about before how to sort of speed that up, but you'll see here if you go into your AirPods settings, this time under Audio and Routing, we have an equalizer option, and we can now adjust the EQ. Now, it's not adjustable in a huge way. We can adjust low, mids, and highs, reset it here, adjust it however you'd like, and if I turn this down, we'll go ahead and press play, and you can see it live, so you can adjust this in real time, and that's what it looks like. Now, keep in mind, it's not a huge adjustment, but it's definitely an improvement over what we had before. So if you want to adjust that however you'd like, you can do that, or just leave it on recommended, and it will adjust it for you. Also, to go along with this, if we place these in my ears here, if we go back one page, you'll see that we have our different modes for listening. We have adaptive mode, and adaptive mode now has additional adjustments. So we can make it a little bit closer to noise cancellation or maybe a little bit more transparent. And this is something we can adjust now where we couldn't do that before. So if you don't want to just fully use noise cancellation, but maybe have it adapt when someone comes up to you and starts talking, but you still want a little bit more noise cancellation, again, you can adjust that either way now. So try that out if you have AirPods on the beta. The next thing you may want to try out if you've just installed iOS 27 are extra large widgets. Apple now includes a bunch of extra large widgets from everything from music to Smart Stack, calendar, home, news, notes, photos, reminders, shortcuts, stocks, TV, and weather. So there's quite a few new extra large widgets. If you want to use those, they take up an entire page, or you can just have them on your widget page. You can adjust those throughout as well. So maybe we'll add one here. So we'll go ahead and maybe add a widget here. We'll add the weather widget, and you'll see that we have an extra large widget option. So if you want to add that one, and you'll see we now have an extra large widget if we scroll over, if you want it as a full page widget. The next thing you should try, depending on your location and what device you have, has to do with Siri. Siri gets a complete rewrite this time around. It's also borrowing from some of Google's Gemini models to make it much better, and most of it is on device. But if your device supported Apple Intelligence before, it will support the new Siri now. However, again, it is limited to countries and different languages. Now, if you go into settings and you scroll down to where you have Siri, you will need to enable this. And once it's enabled, you may have to wait for a period for it to actually enable on your device as it's currently in beta. But once it's enabled, it can do a lot more than the previous Siri could. And it's still getting better as we're still in early betas. So let's try it out. Could you find a picture of a BMW sent by Zach Zolo the other day? I think it was in messages. It's searching. We'll give it a moment here.
I found a photo sent by Zach Zolo on July 1st. 1st, 2026. That might be the one you're looking for.
And if we pull down here, you'll see, in fact, it is a BMW. So this is something that actually shows. It shows when he sent it, and you can do things that have to do with more context and more than that. So you could find maybe an address where you were supposed to meet someone, or maybe something you couldn't find throughout your photos or throughout your messages, throughout mail, music, or anything else. Now, keep in mind, it's still in beta, but it can do an awful lot more than it could before. So it understands context, and we also have Siri within the camera this time around. If we go into the camera, you'll see there's an all-new Siri mode here, and it can understand, and this basically takes the place of visual intelligence. Now keep in mind, this is a beta. Let's see if it recognizes this phone. We'll just tap on the little icon here, and it says it's an iPhone 13 Pro. So it recognizes what the phones are and tells us what it is. It's actually a 13 Pro Max, but it got pretty close, and it understood the color. Let's see if it understands that. We'll ask it a question here. What is this color called? Again, understanding context here this time around. So we'll try it out here. And it's called Sierra Blue. So again, it understands it, and it's gotten much better. Now keep in mind, it can do a lot more. It can send messages, and there's a whole page from Apple as far as what it can do, and I'll have separate videos about that as well. But keep in mind, Siri is so much better than it was before, but it is still a work in progress. Now, if we go into Photos, and again, to go along with some new options, if we go in here to our editing options and you have an Apple Intelligence enabled device, you'll have some new options under Tools. So not only do we have Cleanup, which is definitely a little bit better, we have Extend and Reframe. Let's try Cleanup first since it's been updated. Maybe we'll see if we can get rid of this iPhone here on the right, see what it does. This is a photo I take for the weekend follow-up videos. So we'll wait for it to prepare Cleanup, and then we'll try it out. So now it automatically highlighted this one. Let's go ahead and tap on it and tap Cleanup and see what it does. We'll see how well it gets rid of the phone here and the reflection underneath it. See if it will take care of that. Again, give it just a moment. Now it can take a little while. This is on a 17 Pro Max, so keep in mind it is doing this on device and can take a little bit of time here. And it did an okay job. We definitely could get rid of some of this here and clean that up. Let's see what happens again. And then it did a much better job. So again, it's not perfect. Keep in mind, it's still in beta, but it looks like it's a little bit better. So again, we'll reset, and this time we'll go out of this cleanup mode and go into extend. We can extend beyond the frame, so maybe we want to make it a little bit bigger. You can pinch out just like that, make it a little bit bigger, tap extend, and it can extend the frame outside of what you've already taken as far as a photo goes. So again, give it a moment to process, and then it should extend what we're seeing. I'm curious how this will actually turn out, since this is sort of something it doesn't know what's beyond the photo. You'll see it completed, and it actually did a pretty good job. It has a little line here at the top, which is technically there. It's a studio display, but it doesn't have the color right. But that's pretty impressive. It didn't know what was there, and probably the most impressive feature that I would recommend trying out is the reframe option. Reframe lets you actually adjust the scene and change the perspective. So we could change this a little bit. So it says reframe. So we can move the background, and you'll see the phone moves a little bit, but we can move it so that we're at this perspective. We'll tap reframe, it will process, and then complete what it looks like. So let's give it a moment to finish here. And you'll see it looks like we just took the photo from a different perspective. Again, if we zoom in here, it may not be 100% perfect, but it's quite impressive, especially since this is all just done on device. We sort of change the perspective and it looks a little bit different. We might need to clean it up a little bit more, and then it's fully usable. You can also use the extend feature outside of this app. So if maybe we go to our wallpaper, and here's a wallpaper from the other day that I used. And if we go to customize, we can extend it just like this. So we'll go ahead and extend. It says extending your wallpaper. This can take a moment. So if maybe we want it to be a little bit more of what's going on here, we can just zoom out a little bit and it will extend the wallpaper. And you'll see how it extended it, and you wouldn't even know that it wasn't the same wallpaper. So again, if we go here, you'll see it can generate a spatial scene. We've got depth effects and everything else. So we can completely change what it looked like before, cancel it, and we're back to normal. But again, fully customizable however you'd like. You can extend it further out if you wanted to do that. One other thing you should try is if you have a wallpaper with a subject in it, such as this mountain here, where it's in front of the clock, or this could be a person or anything else that it recognizes as a subject, there's a nice effect when you're maybe within an app and you go into your notification center. So if we go into music, for example, we'll just go home, and if I start to pull down, you'll see that the mountain shows up here in the foreground. So it sort of shows up, get rid of it, and it goes away. So this is a really nice looking effect. Hopefully they keep it with the final version, but again, it's a nice effect if you have a subject within your wallpaper. Another thing I would try out has to do with Safari. Safari does get a little bit of an update here. So if we go maybe to another page, we'll go into another one here. They've moved some of the information at the top. Your bookmarks are now at the top. So this took me a moment to get used to, but there's a nice feature here. If we go maybe to apple.com and maybe we're looking at an iPhone and we're waiting to see what changes on the page. Apple's built that into Safari now. If we go into our options here, you have a new option called Notify Me. If we go to Notify Me, you can now have it notify you based on a change on the page. So maybe a photo. Anytime a photo is changed, we can have it check daily, or we can have it check hourly, weekly, or monthly. And then we can set a time for it to check as well. So if we want to see maybe if Apple is updating a website, something along those lines, or any other website, you can have it check for you on the fly, and it will notify you once it senses that change has been made. Keep in mind, it could use some additional battery life as it's working in the background, but it is a new feature you can use directly within Safari. Now, if we go over into shortcuts, there's a nice update here. Within shortcuts, we have some new options here. So we have a new plus button where we can create a new shortcut. And when we create a new shortcut, it defaults to actually speaking in a natural language to create the shortcut that you want. So we could create something maybe to just dim the display at a specific time or turn off auto brightness. But let's go ahead and try it out. Make a shortcut that turns off auto brightness and turns the display down to 25%. We'll go ahead and process that. We told it what to do, and we'll see what it comes up with here. So it's finding actions, assembling your shortcut, and it says set the screen brightness to 25%. Shortcuts can't turn off auto brightness directly, but you could try this. Now that's something I do hope they give us specific access to, but if we go ahead and use it, you'll see it drop the screen brightness down. So it's getting there. Some of the functionality is not there yet, which hopefully they add in the near future. Something I could use quite a bit for filming videos. But again, this is something you can now create a shortcut just using natural language. However, if you don't want that interface every time you go into it, there's an option for that. So let's go into our settings for shortcuts. We'll use a shortcut to do that. And you'll see that we have the option to open shortcuts to, describe a shortcut, or editor. So if you don't want to describe a shortcut every time, you can open it directly into just the traditional interface here. Again, you can get back to that if you're in describe a shortcut. We'll go back out, and again, we can describe it and then edit it here. But we do have the option to tap edit and it gets rid of that as well, or we have the icon here. But if you want it to open to a specific interface, you have that option as well. Another thing you should try has to do with Apple Wallet. Within Apple Wallet, if you tap the plus to add a new card, you'll have a new option down here to create a pass. You can create a pass for tickets, memberships, and more with visual intelligence, or enter pass details manually. So if we want to maybe create one manually, we can select from a few different options here, such as standard, membership, or event. And you would use this for maybe something that you have a membership to, but they don't offer a digital ID. So maybe you wanted to carry that on your phone. Maybe it's to a local gym or something along those lines. You can enter the information here, even add a code, a QR code that you can scan with your phone, and it will bring it right into here so that you can use that later, making it a little bit easier and having to carry less with you just using memberships. So this is a great feature and definitely something worth checking out if you have that situation. If we go into messages, one thing you may want to try out or change to customize has to do with the voice dictation icon. So typically you can tap on this and utilize voice dictation. I use it all the time, but if it's something that you tap by mistake, you don't want there at all, or you want to change it, there's now some options. So if we go into our settings for messages, then we scroll down here, you'll see it says show in text field. We have start dictation by default. We can record audio. So if we switch back over, you'll see now we have the option to record audio, and we can record a voice message and send it to whoever we want here, or we can remove it entirely. Just switch it over to none, and now we have nothing. So again, Customize this if you regularly use iMessage, and that should hopefully help you out. So again, we'll switch it back to Start Dictation that I use and then continue to use it that way. But again, customize this however you'd like. One other thing I wanted to make you aware of is Landscape. Landscape is back in many different applications. For example, if we go into music, maybe you're listening to music, we rotate it to landscape, you'll see we have a new landscape version. So you can switch through all the different controls, and this carries across to many different applications now. So again, if we go into maybe a podcast we're playing, rotate it, and we have a landscape mode. So some things haven't returned, such as cover flow, but you'll find that there's many more landscape modes, and maybe we'll see even more by the time it's released to the public. So those are the first things I would try with iOS 27. There's technically hundreds of changes in this update. Many of them focus on stability and reliability and sort of interface refinement, but there's quite a few helpful things throughout with accessibility and much more. Let me know your favorite feature in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.